Black August.
Nate Oakley started this, BlackRockers United, in 2006 with a dream for us to rock wherever we are. Welcome to our seventh Brew Talk with Nicole Colley here, and our guest Honeychild Coleman is an inspiration as Sister Girl Riot co-founder and currently the 1865 lead vocalist and baritone guitarist.
Hey,
Honeychild, how
glad
are
to be
you?
here. I'm good. I'm good. This is really exciting. I really enjoyed your interview with Flora. I feel like the things you discussed were not just timely, but just great reminders for us to hear about
Mhm.
ways to support each other and be active and be present. And it was really just great to see that all pulled together.
Thanks a lot. No, look for real, NHL, because I was thinking about you. I was thinking about Flora. I was thinking about Tamar Kali and just all of the Black punks that have come before, but that are still here and are still fighting to make that space, you
Hmm.
know? If you think back
Yeah.
to the 90s and just how much harder it was then for us to look at each other and say, yo, are we in this Black rock thing or what? And now in 2020, it's just we have to be definitive, I think, about recentering ourselves, like Flora said, and like you're doing with the 1865. So props to you. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, if I were to compare the 90s to now, I feel like then, I feel like in the beginning, we were just so excited to find each other and have that comfort and that innate knowledge of what the experience was to be a Black woman picking up a guitar. It was really groundbreaking. You know, I came from Kentucky, so I knew I would find other Black artists.
Yeah.
I couldn't even visualize finding another sister who played the kind of music that I like or had her own band. Like that was next level fantasy. But just knowing I could come here and find somebody who understands me was a big motivator. So finding the other sister girls was like, oh, I'm not the only one. We're in this together.
That is so empowering. And like, I just feel like that's a life changing moment, you know, like when you see yourself, but you see someone else on the same life journey and they're Black and they're rocking. And it's just like, I'm
Exactly.
not alone. Like, let's do this, but let's do this together, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and to not have to feel like you have to hide a part of yourself just to be in a band, or you don't have to push down a part of yourself to feel accepted community wise is major.
100%. That's why I've been looking forward to our brew talk. Honestly, honey child, have you been doing well? I hope life's been
Excellent.
okay pre and during pandemic, you
Uh,
know?
yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a bit of tragedy. I did lose one friend to COVID-19 in the music community, my friend Tony Greer. It's also been, I won't lie, the first few months, I did not feel like having anything to do with music because my spirit and mind were in survival mode. So I'm very grateful to be able to stay home. I have asthma, so there's an extra concern there. But, you know, I've been very focused on just keeping my spirits and my immune system up and just reaching out to people and checking on people in the community. So that's kind of been keeping me going. But I really can't complain. All things considered, I feel very grateful and tranquil and safe. And it could be much worse, definitely.
You are a comforting presence. I can definitely see you being that person in the community that goes to check on people, but also receding and kind of not really creating in that time because it takes a lot to put yourself out there and to creatively express, to be in that vulnerable state with what's going on right now. I understand why you had to step back for a while.
Sure, sure. You know, a lot of people did reach out and check on me as well, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
very grateful for that. My other kind of side interest is fashion accessories. Like that's what I studied in school. So when the whole pandemic happened and all the price gouging and everything, I started making face masks. So that has literally been keeping me sane. I've been able to like gift them to people that had to keep working and donate them to people in my community, even locally, and then sell some as well. So that's literally all I've been doing for like going on 6 months now. I just started working on music again in July.
I love the solidarity. That right there is mutual aid. And I wanted to actually mention the art that you are making has a lot to do with mutual aid. when you post through DJ Honeychild Coleman
Mm-hmm.
and the 1865, you're linking to initiatives in your city in New York and other cities. That's astounding to me. I haven't seen that many artists really using that platform for that purpose. Would you like to talk about that?
It's kind of similar to my approach to writing political music. Like, I don't want to beat people over the head with politics. You know, like some of my friends are anarchists, some aren't. Some are more liberal and more progressive, some aren't. But this is a time when Black life is so endangered. I just feel like use this platform to share information, to keep people informed. I felt even more prompted to let people know what's happening there because the media isn't. So I went out of my way to find different groups there to follow to help spread their information, because I have this platform at a time when so many people are disillusioned, like, oh, Facebook's horrible and I really hate social media and, you know, I'm not promoting. And it's like,
Yeah.
sharing community information is not promoting, that's communication.
Exactly.
And I don't need to be on TV to communicate with you. I don't need to post a video of myself at the protest to let you know the protest is happening. There's so much going on. Again, because I had to stay home, it made me feel like, well, I can't be in the street. What can I do?
No, you're so
And I
impactful
think that's
without
the question
having.
I always have is like, how can I help?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah. I love that you don't feel like you have to be attached to the on the ground front lines approach. So that's absolutely radical and necessary. A lot of us, we don't have that option, and we do have to find ways to help
Yeah.
without doing that. And you found that way,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I wanted to shout that out, because that's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have some great friends who are literally in the streets every day, and I check on them. I'm like, you have everything you need. You guys need this. What are you doing? Is there something I can let people know about? It's the times we're living in is the only way I can describe it. If these were calm times, there would be a different issue to talk about and spread info about. Maybe my main focus was more on what's happening with women's rights, because that's the big focus with my band Backslider, just like gender equality, things like that. But when I step outside of my house every day, the first thing people see is, oh, here's a Black person. So sorry, that's my number one priority right now, is how to survive and be Black. And then everything else is right under it, no less important, but that is what's happening socially right now. And it's not my choice, but it's how we stay alive, you know? Oddly, maybe because I'm a little bit of an introvert, I've been very happy to be able to stay home and create and write every day. But it's also helped me realize, oh, I can be at home and still feel like I'm connected to my community and feel productive in a way. Not that we should be like, oh my God, I'm locked in, I need to produce every day. But I can feel like I'm making a little bit of a difference and not putting myself at risk. So that's been my biggest lesson during the whole thing.
And being introverted, you kind of realized during the pandemic how much you appreciated solitude and how much productivity didn't have to be something tied to making money for you. You were making because you wanted
True,
to,
true.
and it fulfilled you to do
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely. I mean, I am the person in all of my bands who kind of designs merch. At the end of the day, you just want to share things with people because it gives you and them joy. You know, like, I've never been someone to say, oh, my shirts are $50. I can't lie. And it's been very nice to also get a little bit of money as well. Every day I was telling my partner, like, sure, I have orders for mass and all these things, but I try to do something creative at least once a week to have that to look forward to. It's not about selling something. It might not even be something I share online, but it's just something that gives me joy to make.
Beautiful, Honeychild. Wow. So on that note, your Punk Black performance rocked last week. You killed it. It was amazing. I never would have
Oh,
known that.
thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. I never would have known that for months up until then you weren't really performing. You were like fashion designing instead and kind of delving into that artistic space. That's really cool. So I saw your limited edition 1865 art merch too on Facebook. Really awesome. Yeah, art in alternative Black space is
Thank you.
therapeutic. It's necessary.
It is. I have a lot of, I know I keep saying the word gratitude and it might sound corny, but that project really kind of reminded me of the joy in creative expression. I came out of illustration retirement with this band to illustrate our lyric book. So from there, I just started designing again after not doing visual art at all for many years. So, I'll do some hand painted things that people who come to this special Black History Month show can get, and I'll never make them again.
Nice.
Just to be like, oh, it's like a reminder of the time.
Yeah.
And it's been really a lot of fun to be in a project where everybody has something else that they do, and we all appreciate that in each other. Like Flora is also a bassist and a wonderful vocalist, and you know about Ma'afa, like they're untouchable. Biz is, he's also like an actor and a dancer, and he does voiceover, poetry and art and film. And then, you know, Sasha is also a film director and writer. Like we all are, in a way, I feel like Renaissance artists, if I could think of a better description. I don't know. I've been in some creative situations where people felt like it was a conflict if you did something outside of that band, and gave me pushback, like, oh, you're not focused enough because you like to do something else. So now I feel like I'm in a situation in my life where everyone appreciates what everybody brings to the table. And there's no way to not thrive in that environment, spiritually, creatively, artistically. You just feel so much support.
Nice. So you feel furthered in your goals, and you're all on that journey together, helping each other, you know, like inspired by each other in that way.
Yeah, and exactly. And just, you know, if one of us has something going on, we all want to lift them up. And that's just really invaluable. It's such a wonderful feeling of like, oh, what are you doing this week? Oh, I want to support you. I want to come out. If I can't be there, I want to let people know. And to me, that's what community is about, you know?
It is. Artistic, Black, alternative, punk community.
DIY, you know?
It's such a beautiful thing.
It really is. And it's much needed, especially now. Especially with everybody so separated and feeling like they're stuck in place. We're all in this limbo. You know, society's crazy right now.
It's,
you know, between like civil unrest and people standing up for the first times in their lives, younger people getting out in the street, very exciting. And then, you know, forget about what's happening politically in this country. It's criminal, it's tragic, but there's a lot of expression coming out of it.
That you're a part of. And how does it feel to get those throwback nowadays perspective through the 1865? How does it feel to look back upon what liberation felt like in 1861 through 1865 to 2020?
It's a very eerie feeling, I won't lie, because when we sat down and kind of conceptualized this album, we had no idea things would be what they are right now. Then we thought like, oh, this is an interesting thing. It's a cool way to like talk about history. And now we're like, oh no, people need this. And we're so glad we did it. Whereas while we were doing it, it was a little scary. The topics are very heavy, and were people ready to hear that? Is that something they really wanted? Could they understand there's still a little bit of joy in the darkness? And now it's like, oh, I really needed to hear this. And sometimes I forget it's us. Honestly, like I'll listen to something and be like, oh yeah, that's us. It's just the timing of it. It's just anyone who is putting their heart into saying something about what's happening right now is so needed.
Yeah. As I found out that it was a project you were part of, I was like, because we have no choice but to get it. Does that make sense? When you hear the 1865, you can't tune out to the truth. That's
sure.
It's very powerful. From your amazing guitar and voice combination to Flora on bass and Diz and drummer Chuck Treese and Sasha on lead guitar, like, how does it feel? And again, does it feel like the ancestors are speaking through you and singing with you?
Definitely. No lie, once we really solidified the concept, I didn't want it to just be like a boring history lesson, you know, beat people over the head with facts. Like, oh, Harriet Tubman did this. I was like, no, what was she like? If Harriet Tubman was my friend right now, what would she be saying to me? I really tried to get into the minds of the characters in every song. And that's the same approach I take when I do storyboards for my own videos. I think of them as little movies. So each song to me is like a scene in a movie. And I actually cracked open some books and did some reading. I knew about Peggy Gardner because I'd seen her story on the African Americans, and it resonated with me because she was from Kentucky and I knew the Ohio River, all these different pieces of her life. I was like, yo, I could see my ancestors during that time based on these facts. So I really wanted people to feel the characters, but also feel them in a modern way. If you didn't know anything, if you didn't know this was a concept album, if you didn't know anything about Black history, you could still be like, oh, this woman Harriet is showing me something. She's giving me guidance. She's giving me advice. So that's kind of the approach I took to all of it. And it's something that it comes up in a lot of interviews with Sasha as well. It's like, if you don't even know anything about us, we want this album to rock. We want you to feel the music. And then, oh, by the way, there's a message, you know?
There you go.
So that really motivated me to dig in a little bit deeper with the feelings. A lot of the songs I've really had fun writing, like John Brown's Gat. I probably had some of the most fun. I thought about my really dear friend Lukman Brown from Funk Face, because he's also a really amazing vocal actor in the way that he tells stories in his songs. And I'm like, this is a crunk punk song, and I can't not hear Luke's voice in my head as I'm writing this chorus, because it's so him. Every time I play it, I got to give him a shout out because it really inspired me. Yeah, the music was so exciting to me that it's a record I'd buy if I wasn't involved. You know, playing with two people as talented and diverse, artistic, making this record and being in this project.
And I love that about your music, Honeychild. No matter what project you're in, you definitely speak to the times and you express yourself, and that is needed. And thank you for doing that with 1865.
Thank you.
And thank you for making the personal political.
It's really liberating to be able to do that. And oddly, I think every band that I'm in is doing something political.
Oh,
I first came here in 1985. Yeah, I was here from 85 to the beginning of 89, and then I came back in 93.
What was it like?
You know, it's funny, like, I went to Berlin in 2003, and it reminded me of New York in the 80s. Like, some parts were a little burned out. Then there'd be these pockets of real vibrant creativity. I can't really compare Berlin because Berlin isn't as racially diverse, obviously.
Okay.
But I felt a lot of freedom, and maybe it was because of what was happening economically as well, like what we're about to come up on next year. A lot of people had abandoned the city a little bit, and that you could really feel the diversity between people who were rich or considered yuppies versus working class and bohemians. But the thing that I really loved about New York then was no matter how much money you can have a beautiful experience if your mind is open to it. Yeah. It's not a place where I've ever felt like, oh, I can't go anywhere because I'm broke, because there's always something you can see and do. And moving here straight out of high school, that blew my mind. Oh, I can walk most places, and there's always something to see, look at, hear, experience. And I feel like that still exists, to be honest. That hasn't changed so much. It takes a little more work to find those things, but it still exists. You can have a $20 night or you can have a $200 night. It's really up to your budget. And no place else that I've lived in America, I've felt that, where you don't have to be of a certain class to feel like you belong someplace.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
In the 80s, I mean, I know there was a lot of snobbery with nightlife and the club world and whatever, but I felt like Monday through Friday, that didn't exist. And maybe that's a New York thing too. Monday through Friday, the real New Yorkers kind of own certain places. And then the weekend is the posh people or the out-of-towners, or as some say, the Bridge and Tunnel. Although Bridge and Tunnel, I think, is an expired thing now, because who lives in Manhattan? No one I know, hardly.
Everyone lives in Brooklyn.
But I do feel like everyone lives in Brooklyn or Queens, Jersey City, the Bronx. The people I know who are in Manhattan have been there forever. They're not like, oh, I just moved to New York and I live in Manhattan. You know, they've been there since before I was here. So it also made you just really alert. Like I went everywhere by myself at all hours of the night that I wouldn't do now because I'm older and just more like a little paranoid. But I literally never felt unsafe because it was just so exciting and everything was so new. So
I love that. So New York has continued to be like this exhilarating, bohemian, artistic place where even if there is a price point for some, it's still accessible for the most part to artists like us.
yeah, I mean, I also feel like since I've become friends with a lot of these bands that play at the Rock House at Max Fish, we've kind of reignited that feeling of knowing where to go and who to find. And it's not something so evident on the surface. It's like if you find out about Rebelmatic and then you look at them, then you'll start to see the trickle off of who they're connected to. It's like a tree with many branches. But I mean, I work the door at Max Fish sometimes for some of our shows. Random people drinking upstairs, and the look on their face when they walk in and see a basement packed full of Black people moshing is priceless because they never knew about us. We, and, you know, and I'm nobody's separatist, but it's such a beautiful self-contained thing. We don't need to lure them down. They're going to show up anyway because it's cool. But it's like if they didn't come down those steps, they literally wouldn't know. So that's really interesting to me because, you know, New York has this whole reputation of newcomers to the scene who only know about Afropunk, what it is now. They don't know about James Spooner. You know, they don't know about the liberation sessions at the Delancey. They don't know any of that. So those people show up thinking it's going to be something so much different. And the first thing you see is how much everybody loves each other and is excited for each other. And that to me is what I think of when I think of old New York in a nutshell.
Yes. It's a haven for us. And if you know, you know, as Biggie said. And if you don't know,
exactly.
Now you know. So cool.
And it's almost, once people find out, they show up. And it's been really just, I'm blown away every time, to be honest. There's been nights bleeding outside and under 30 degrees, and people still show up. And it's a Thursday night in a basement. You know, I haven't seen that kind of excitement maybe since CBGB's, to be honest. So it's pretty cool. So
this is a real family, you know?
Yeah, it is. We share band members. It's been really exciting. It gives me hope because there's always someone new. Sometimes I don't even know half the people that came through the door, and they take something away with them. So needless to say, I really miss that. I can't believe like the last Rock House that I played was in February because in March we were starting to already know about the pandemic and we decided not to play that gig. So yeah, it's been a long time and I'm used to seeing everyone every month. Plus I'm used to seeing all of my bandmates at least twice a week because you know how it is, like half of band practice is socializing, catching up, checking the pulse, like how are you doing, what's going on in your life, like all of that came to a grinding halt. So I understand people feeling antsy and feeling isolated.
I do. That's why it's good to see you and like talk, to really connect with you and see what's going on because you know, like I understand that feeling and I don't want any of us to go through that feeling. Pick up the phone or virtually call someone and be like, what's up, Honeychild? How are you doing? You know?
Yeah. No, it's great. I've been I have a really good friend in Manchester who I do a lot of WhatsApp with, but now other people are starting to be like, oh, I can do WhatsApp. I can do a video chat. You know, let's make a date, put it on the calendar. And it's really something to look forward to feel connected. It's so needed.
Have you been doing that with your band? Has that really kept y'all together through this?
We haven't done a full band Zoom yet. We did Zoom meeting for like an interview. I've also done we have this tribe group through the Max Fish crew that Flora is kind of spearheading. So we've done some Zoom chats with them. Otherwise, I do just pick up the phone and call people. And I got to see Biz in person in July because he's doing a residency at Mass Mocha and he invited me to come play.
It was February when you last saw everybody and then catching up with them in the summer.
Right. It was great. One, we were outside of the city, which was also nice. We were in North Adams, which I don't know if you know much about. It was my first time there. It's a small town, but everything's very spread out. So we were pretty much outdoors the entire time. We had like one rehearsal indoors in a giant dance studio with all the windows open, completely masked. But it was wonderful. It was wonderful to see him, to hear what he's working on, to play. That was incredible. It was really cool. It made me feel like, okay, I'm ready to start playing again, which why when Punk Black invited me, that was super fun. I did one street performance also since then in Manhattan. And while my friend Constance was doing live painting. So my mind is kind of expanding as far as ideas about how performance will look moving forward. And right now I'm really only doing outdoor things. So that's been like, it's a great way to see people and feel like, you know, the connection and the exchange, but also feel safe.
That is a really cool approach to social distancing too. Oh, I can perform with you and for you, and we can still like hang out, but you know, respect the health rules too. Oh, Honeychild, right on.
Right. Yeah, it's been a learning curve for real. I mean, I also am just still getting used to living in a bigger space because I've lived in a really tiny apartment for 18 years. So being sheltering at home in like literally my bedroom, which was also my sewing studio and my music studio, was so hardcore. And it made me realize like I do need to find a way to get outside. Like I can't just stay indoors. I need to get fresh air. I need to walk around and see people, you know, even if it's 30 minutes a day, whatever, because that's a big part of the New York lifestyle is you're used to talking to the people in the bodega. You know them all by name, you know, like you have your neighborhood connections and just walking past the garden or seeing your neighbor and waving, like you have to make yourself find a way to still connect with people. I mean, thankfully, I don't have any other health things making me afraid to be outside, but I also, because I do enjoy being alone and being indoors a lot, I have to make myself get out and be like, oh, you know, it's okay. You can go for a walk. You know, like there's no shortage of creative things to distract me indoors. I have to be like, you know what, you need to get outside. So that's been a big lesson as well.
I do miss that about New York. It is like that very interconnected sense of go to the corner store and you know like the person that like checks out all your stuff, and then like you go down the street and like talk to your friend because they live down the block from you, you know? Yeah. Randomly
pass by people. Yeah.
Exactly, you know, but then you start to pass by those people all the time, and then you start to like talk to them more and they become your neighbors. And then it's patching like those relationships together during quarantine, and that's cool that you've managed to do that.
Yeah, it's slowly happening. I'm slowly re-emerging. I feel literally after months of the only people I saw were the people at the post office. That's like my main thing. Like, oh, I guess I should check my PO box and have no ships and packages. Otherwise, in the house. But
me too. Yeah.
To be able to play. I've been watching a lot of streaming concerts also, so that's been really fun, just seeing what people do, how they set it up. So that's been inspiring, I have to say.
It was beautiful to see you perform in this space for Punk Black. Was that inspirational in terms of other people's content and streaming for when you did that last week?
It was. The funny part was probably doing it in the daytime because most of the concerts I've been watching have been at night. You know, people have like fun lighting and things like that. I was like, oh, this is daylight. Like really be a little bit aware of what this presentation is giving other people versus what I see. But it was cool. It was really fun, actually. It made me think, maybe because I had just done the street performance the weekend before, just really thinking about the sound and making sure things were clear and more of the technical side. But my only regret is I didn't organize myself enough to be able to see if people had like requests or comments. Like I'm not that savvy yet with streaming.
Yeah.
I was just playing blindly, kind of like, I wasn't even watching the time, and then I'm like, oh wait, maybe I should play longer. But it was great. It was a good initiation into the world of streaming and audience
Mm.
interaction.
Oh, you did so well, Honeychild, and I never would have known that you weren't checking in. It just you were naturally in tune with your audience. I think because you've been performing for so long, everyone was just loving it.
Oh, thanks.
Props to you.
Thank you. You know what
Yeah,
it made me think of? Because I used to play in the subway. It was that kind of feeling where you know someone's listening, but you have to keep going. So I was just kind of like,
exactly.
oh, this really kind of feels like I'm playing in the subway right now. Like it was kind of intense.
Hmm. You had to use the same improvisational skills from busking. You're like, what do people want to hear, even though you don't really know quite what their tastes are? Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. The busking thing. Also, when I was a busker, I never had a mic. So I had to choose an area with really good acoustics. And in the beginning, I didn't even have an amp. I just had this big hollow body guitar. And then later, I got a little amp, but I had to be able to project louder than the guitar. So that would determine what I would sing. So the dynamics of the vocals really depended on the acoustics of the subway station. And then if there was noise coming, you would restart the song. Like there's so many nuances, but I really love it. Like I would definitely do it again.
Wow. It was so cool to learn about that through a Vice article. Yeah, your start was busking in New York and then DJing and performing live. And then you met Tamar Kelly, and then you started Sister Girl Riot that way. What are your favorite moments of those days until 2020 now?
Oh, wow. Probably when I first met up with my first DJ crew, which was DJ Olive and my friend Rich, whose DJ name is Luke, because Gregor, aka DJ Olive, had come to a show I did at ABC No Rio. And for some reason or another, even though I was playing these punk songs with a drum machine, he understood my idea for how vocals would work with electronic music from seeing this one show. So he's like, hey, I have this party on Sunday nights. It's at a bar. Do you think you want to come and sing with us? And I'm like, this is what I moved back to New York to do. Finally, a DJ who can
Yeah.
see what I'm trying to express. So that was like really a favorite moment. And then not long after that, like around the same time, was when I met Tamar. And she was really good friends with my roommate at the time. And she would come over and we would watch The Box and watch all these different videos from Underdog to like No Doubt to Rage Against the Machine. Like it was all
Oh,
over the
that is
place. And I was
so
like,
cool.
wow, she really has diverse musical taste. And then one day she was like, you know what? I didn't meet you before, but I saw you on the train one day with your skateboard. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy.
That
Like she
link.
remembered me from then. So then I thought, like, okay, here's another person who sees me, who didn't just like glance at me and assume something. So like being seen, I think, is a reoccurring theme. You feel like people understand like what your mission is, maybe. I don't know, like other favorite moments, maybe leading up to when Sasha called me about the band idea, which was also kind of random because I hadn't been playing guitar for 5 or 6 years. I was only playing bass. He started to tell me the concept. I hadn't heard any music yet, and I was like, I'm in. Just send me what you got. This sounds great. I'm down. And he
All
was like, oh,
right.
I thought it could be. I was like, hey, that sounds great. I was like, send it to me. And I like literally started writing right away. And then I just felt like something reawakened in a way. Like, oh, yeah, this is something else that I have to say and express. And here's someone who sees me, who understands that I'm the person to do it. So there's many more, but those are three that come to mind. Feeling seen as an artist with potential to execute an idea is something that feels really important to me.
I can see why those are your
And
favorite
have
moments.
fun. If there's no fun, I mean, another favorite moment, honestly, my friend Ania, who I'm in this Heavens Be ska spooky reggae band with, on my birthday, I got a message from her saying, hey, do you want to go on tour with the Slits? And I was like, what? So then me being super, maybe a little pessimistic, I was like, oh, that's such a cool idea, but my band's not ready. There's no way we could tour with them. And so I wrote her back anyway, and she goes, "Oh no, it's not your band. She needs a guitarist." And again, I hadn't been playing guitar for years, and I'd never played reggae guitar in my life, and I only knew 2 of their songs. But I was like, you know what? I'm up for the challenge. You know, she's like, okay, well, here's her phone number. Give her a call. You know, Ari's old school. She doesn't use email. She doesn't even have an answering machine. But, you know, she saw you play at PS1 with Apollo Heights, and she remembered you're a female guitarist. So she told me to call you. And I'm like, what? So insane. She didn't even talk to me. I saw her backstage. Literally, she didn't say 2 words to me, but she remembered that show. You just never know, like, your effect on people, I guess, is a big part of it. I was blown away. I was like, what? Okay. I guess I could learn these songs in 2 weeks and go on tour. Why not? This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So
100%.
definitely a favorite moment.
Oh, Honeychild. A measurable impact that you have on people's lives. They don't have to even talk to you, but they wanted to reach out to you again and say, "Will you collaborate with me?" Isn't that awesome?
It is. And I'm grateful for it every day. No lie. Like some days I'm just like, wow, I can't believe that this person that I really admire wants to work with me and believes in what I'm doing. It's wonderful. Definitely. I will never be jaded to that ever.
Respect, 100%. What is the more challenging part of playing baritone guitar versus the traditional?
For me, because I don't read music and I play by ear, finding what to play. When it was just 2 guitars, it was a little bit easier because I was more focused on playing really bassy things. But now that we have Flora, who is such a sick bass genius, finding something else to play is my biggest challenge. Because I'm like post-punk power chord girl. So like, but the beauty of that for me, I'm just like, oh, give me those power chords, you know, like the louder and more dirty, the better. But the challenge is definitely you cannot play traditional chords because it's just all different tunings and it's all different. But I love it. It's just like a whole different sound. And it gives that little country sound, you know. So we got some country western songs in there and it really works. It's like my country punk dream come true.
I'm loving it. I'm loving the Kentucky influence on your sound. So one feeling,
it's yeah, you know, the other thing too, and I'm sure you feel this, to have the freedom to not be afraid to tap into the country as a Black person and not be judged like, oh, well, Black people don't play country music. Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do. In fact. So that's been also extremely liberating and powerful. And people really react to the country songs way more than I could have imagined. Like they really feel them. It's American music, straight up.
Good. They have that connection that you do when
they
they
love
hear
them. They really do. Yeah, there's an immediate physical reaction. Definitely.
I love that. So it's kind of everyone tapping into this selective awareness and being like, Black people are country, Black people are rock, Black people are blues. And it's just like, thank you everyone for coming into the same awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and just
so
we can be ourselves. Yeah, it's very freeing, and it's very, I don't know, I mean, I grew up, you know, like many of us, hearing people say, you know, rock is white people's music and you want to be white and just all those negative things, you know, people not really knowing the history of what we've created and invented and shown the world, and to not be judged for liking something that's different, let alone seeing us do it, is so empowering. I mean, one of my favorite heavy metal singers ever is Militia Vox. She's untouchable. I don't know any white metal female singers who can touch Militia.
Militia is untouchable.
It's like she is ruling it. She's ruling it. She's untouchable. And no one's gonna, I've never seen anyone at a show be like, oh, but you shouldn't be singing metal to her. Like they're bowing down to kiss her boots, as they should be. So it's just every time you hear, or, you know, people tell, I don't know if this happens with you, but I think once people become aware of the fact that you're really about other bands. Like people always tell me like, oh, you should check this band out. If you like this, you'll like that. Or they connect us. Like we got connected to this woman in LA on Instagram who found us through the Sister Girls. She found Maya. So then Maya tagged all the bands that should lift her up. So I love the fact that that's happening. That's how I met Demetra Dawn from Exes with Benefits. She's in Northern California. And Daniel from The Velt was like, you need to know Demetra. You should know each other. And that you should know each other thing is so Black. It is so church. It is so community. It's so punk, and it's so needed right now. There's no most exciting things happening.
So being Black and that solidarity that you were just talking about, when I see photos of you at Max Fish and when I see Flora and Mafa of us like rocking back in the day and now, like that is liberation. That is Black survival.
It is.
That's
It
lived
really
solidarity, you know? I see the Rock House in the corner. Why don't you tell us about Max Fish? Max Fish.
Oh, wow. Max Fish is a, when I first came back to New York, I used to do acoustic shows there. And it is a mainstay, unofficially skateboarding haven. Like a lot of pro skaters hang there, bartenders, whatever. There's DJs. But something happened when they changed location and the crowd became more Black and a little more punk. And that was always kind of underlyingly there. But just one day out of the blue, I walked in and I'm like, whoa, all right, I see you, Max Fish. It's always been a very open and welcoming place. It's female owned. It's just like one of the last mainstays of the East Village, to be honest. And I think Preacher, they had done a few shows already. And then we came up with the idea for the Rock Ma'afa and the 1865. And everybody pays, there's no guest list. And it's packed every time. It's amazing. And it's been so much fun to give a platform for all of our friends who have up and coming bands to play. And also just to see each other every month. It's literally a church feeling. Like the first show, I made church fans for everyone. Actually, I handed them out, and it's a place where we all can try new songs, connect with each other, just congregate every month.
I got that vibe, you know? Yeah, it's like what we're doing with BlackRockers United, but in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Respect on each other.
Yeah. Do you have like a monthly kind of residency that you guys do, or seasonally?
We do not, but we should get going on that. I feel like as many beautiful, like artistic Black people as there are, we should have some form of virtual concert or something, you know? Make a monthly residency or some form of space where we can all get together. Because I love this feeling in this like Black punk renaissance.
I might not love all the music that everybody I know makes, but I want them to have that freedom to be there. I want them to feel like they have that right. And it's not a competition is the other thing. I feel like as Black artists, when outsiders get involved, and I'm just being vague with the word outsider, they tend to pit us against each other. Like there can only be one of you. We're gonna put this thing together and there's one Black band, or there's one Black woman, or there's one Black actor, or whatever. And we wanna get rid of that. There's room for all of us. There really is.
All Black lives out here matter.
Exactly.
And we can all rock in our different ways, in our different spaces. And respect that, you know, because that's community right there. Or which other projects
Indeed.
Are you proud of participating in? Honeychild, support the artistic community, everybody.
I'm in this new band called Heaven's Bee with Nia. Some people know her from Agent 99, the ska band in the mid to late 90s. She also has another reggae project called Street. So Dania, myself, and Roger from Bigger Thomas are the main vocalists. And it's political, dystopian, spooky reggae and ska. And I love it. And our record, sadly, unfortunately, dropped right at the start of the pandemic. So we didn't really get to have like a launch. But we made a video. We have a song that's a tribute to Ranking Roger. And we'll be recording again soon when it becomes safe. But that project started around the same time as the 1865. So I was like running to New Jersey and recording with those guys and then coming back here and doing both albums really at the same time.
Wow.
So I'm really proud of it, and it's a lot of fun. I DJ that music a lot when I play, and it's, you know, once things do calm down, I look forward to actually doing a live show with those guys. I'm pretty psyched about is it's a duo that I have with my partner. It's called GA, but it's GKA, and it's kind of electronic punk, super political. We started off writing songs inspired by what happened in Ferguson. So one of our songs is Blue Silence. It's about police brutality. And it ended up on a compilation for the BlackRock Coalition. So we're in the process now of, I kind of had to shelve the project a bit when I started to work with the 1865 on our first album. So now we're revisiting about 8 to 10 songs that we've written to record them properly and then release them. So since the lockdown, like that's been revisited. And then otherwise the 865 is working on a new album too. We started writing right before everything happened. So yeah, it's a lot of creative stuff. We were writing a lot of new material. I don't know if you know, Ramsey, our drummer, is also in Rebelmatic and Ma'afa and Funkface. So he's the man about town. He's kind of the go-to MVP in the Black punk world. So in Backslider, my bandmate Anu is also a film editor. So again, just that whole like bohemian, multifaceted thing. But we're working on new music. I myself am also working on new solo stuff. So there's always something on the stove, but really excited that the Heaven's Bee album is done and to finally release some music with God, because we've been working on it for so long. Just to like the timing, we really want to get stuff done before the election because it's all about what's happening now. So that's the goal.
I'm so proud of you, Honeychild. You just keep at it.
Oh,
keep
thanks.
the punk momentum alive and let this renaissance really blossom into what it was meant to be.
Yeah, you know, I feel like at the time I was still living with my roommate. She's a photographer. And I just remember one day we were hanging out having coffee and I'm like, is it wrong to feel like I'm thriving right now during a pandemic because I'm at home making stuff and just doing what I normally do without the pressure to go out and earn money? Like, it really made me think about the priorities of daily life in this country. And it's been a relief to not be like, oh, I really need to go get that job right now. My focus shifted. Maybe it'll change again, but my quality of life has improved because I'm at home more. And that's shocking as a New Yorker. It's really shocking because I don't think of New York as a place. My life up until now, you know, you're at home, but you're out doing stuff. And a lot of your life is outside and in public space and in performance mode, whether it's at your job or on stage. So to have that flip has been really interesting. It's been really just like a lot of inner reflection. Again, I know this isn't the case for everyone because the whole pandemic really has affected people very differently. But for me, it's been a reminder to not let my projects fall to the wayside. And because they're needed now, like if I release these songs after Trump is out of office, no one will care. You know, like they're talking about what people are going through right now. So that's been motivating me to like kind of put my eye back on that prize. But also, you know, it's a lot of people talk about, you know, like toxic positivity and overproductivity and, oh, I'm locked down at home, so I must be productive. And I don't really believe in that either. I think we have to do a lot of self-care right now and rest and be nurturing to ourselves. So all of these things have been very grounding with just, like, I forget who it is who said this, and probably get slaughtered for this, but self-care is very radical. Like putting yourself first, making sure you feel good. Otherwise, you don't have anything to give. The tank is empty. So it's been a very reflective time. Again, it sounds corny, but I do have every day that I wake up and I don't have to run outside and be somewhere and put myself at risk, I'm grateful for. But also just really trying to not let this time pass and not document it in some way. And that's just been what gets me out of bed every day, pretty much.
Artistic motivation and really putting yourself out there in ways that are fulfilling and needed, necessary, because the time is now, the place is here. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that it's frightening and it's a terrifying time, and I could definitely understand feeling paralyzed as far as, again, like, I don't want to be in the street, or I don't have anything to say creatively, and that's fine and that's valid. And again, for the first 3 months of the pandemic, I didn't have anything new to say. I was trying to stay alive, and make sure my people are okay. So I don't want to, that whole idea of guilting people, like, how are you going to come out of this and not have a new album? Because you're alive, that's how. Because how about you came out of it and you're still here, and that's enough. So I don't want to, I don't know. It's an interesting time. It's a really interesting time to reflect, like, to read more and just take care of ourselves and just not feel that pressure of perform, output, sell. Like, I feel like those values are flipped right now. They really are. And it's I love performing. I'm really happy I can be at home and perform. But if I don't do another streaming concert, the world's not going to end, because right now we have other priorities. That's kind of how I feel about it. But
it has been transcendental talking to you, Honeychild. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just wishing everybody well. I really appreciate this program. Like, watching it last week was just so uplifting, and I love that you're creating this space to connect with the artists and just exchange experiences. It's so important for us to tell our stories, so I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too, Honeychild. You deserve that space. We all deserve the space to be ourselves and to be Black and to be beautiful in our own way. I hope that we can, like, rock in person someday soon, Honeychild, because like, the time, it needs to be soon. I also understand that Brewery's got to play it safe. We all got to, like, look out for each other on a global level. How are we going to end this pandemic, y'all? Look out for each other. Protect your neighbor.
Yeah.
Love thyself.
Yeah. No, it's true. And there's a lot of shaming happening with that, which I'm personally having a struggle with as well. Because in the beginning, I thought, like, people are selfish. But then I thought, like, no, people are uninformed. And you can't police other people. You can only lead by example. So a part of my anxiety stems from relying on other people to do the right thing. As a Black person, that makes me very nervous. As a woman with asthma in a pandemic, it also makes me nervous. So I personally am challenged with how to let that go and not expect that everyone has my same standards. And it's not easy. It's really not easy.
It's a struggle.
But it's a struggle, but it's, again, I wake up every day and I'm like, I'm so fortunate that that's not my daily struggle. Maybe it happens once a week because I don't have to interact in those situations on a daily basis right now. And I know a lot of people do. So, it's perspective. It really is. But as soon as it's safe to travel again, trust and believe, I'll be the first person at JFK getting on the plane because I love travel. I spend all of my money on travel and records, pretty much, even more than clothes. That's the day I look forward to.
All right, honey.
Someone wrote like, you know, like we're global citizens and we move and we're everywhere, and to be, you know, some people are like, oh my God, I can't go outside. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't leave America. Like, I have a very different perspective. Like, oh, you mean I got to stay here indefinitely? Like, oh no.
Get me out of here.
Oh no. Exactly. So, you know, it's a little chuckle, but literally that was my like, I can't leave the country. How can I make it better to be here? Because that makes me feel anxious. Because I really protect my passport with my life, like literally. So,
real talk, honey.
you know, real talk, you know.
Real brew talk,
So yes.
right? Listen, Honeychild, Brew Crew, Kamani, Kim, Dallas, Ali, Nate, we send you much love.
Yes,
DC,
back at you. And
New
thank you
York.
again for having me.
Yes.
We'll see each other in person by hook or crook, as I like to say. But you know, as long as we're still here, we're gonna be here and we're gonna keep moving forward.
That's what I'm talking about. We will stay Black Punk united and safe most of all, Honeychild.
Exactly. Back at you.
Okay.
Bye. Thanks again.